When my wife called me a loser in front of everyone, I just smiled. She thought she had won, that she had humiliated me in front of our friends and colleagues. But what she didn't realize was that I already knew. Her little performance tonight would be the final act in her perfect act. My name is Mark. Up until 6 months ago, I thought I had the perfect life. I worked as an IT consultant, running my own small business, while my wife, Rachel, managed public relations for high-profile clients. We had been married for 7 years, built a beautiful home, and had what I thought was a strong partnership. But looking back, I should have noticed the cracks long before they became a chasm. It started gradually, a change in her tone, a distance in her touch. She began working late more often, and her phone became an extension of her hand. When I asked about it, she brushed off my questions with a condescending, "You wouldn't understand." I chalked it up to stress. Rachel had always been ambitious, and I admired that about her. I wanted to believe her late nights and secretive behavior were just part of the job. But one night, I noticed something that made my stomach drop. She was on the phone, laughing softly. That laugh wasn't for me. It hadn't been for a long time. When I asked who it was, her response was sharp and dismissive. "Just a work thing." "Why are you always so insecure, Mark?" The word insecure stung. It became her weapon of choice, used in arguments and casual conversations alike. "You're so lucky I stayed with you," she'd say with a smirk. "You'd be lost without me." I began to feel like an intruder in my own marriage, like a ghost haunting a house that no longer felt like home. The night everything fell apart was supposed to be a celebration. Rachel had organized a networking dinner at an upscale restaurant, inviting our mutual friends and her colleagues. I was there to play the supportive husband, the role I had been perfecting for years. Everything seemed fine until the toast began. Rachel stood up, a wine glass in hand, and smiled. "I want to thank everyone for being here tonight. It's been an incredible year for me, and I couldn't have done it without the support of those closest to me." Then she turned to me. Her smile was sharp, like a blade. "And of course, my husband, Mark. Well, let's just say, he tries his best." Laughter rippled through the room. My ears burned as she continued. "It's not easy being married to someone who doesn't quite understand ambition. But I suppose every queen needs her court jester, right?" The laughter grew louder, and I felt every eye in the room on me. I wanted to disappear. But then, as the humiliation boiled in my veins, I remembered the folder hidden in my desk drawer at home. The folder filled with screenshots, emails, and photos that painted a clear picture of Rachel's late nights. She wasn't working late. She was meeting her lover, a wealthy client named Derek. I gripped my glass tightly, forcing a smile. As she sat down, her expression smug. She thought she had broken me, but that was her mistake, underestimating me. She might have called me a loser, but I wasn't the one living a double life. That night, as we drove home, Rachel prattled on about how successful the evening had been. I stayed silent, my mind racing with plans. I had been waiting for the right moment, and now she had handed it to me on a silver platter. The next day, I began executing my plan. First, I contacted a lawyer. I wanted to understand my options and how to protect myself. Then, I quietly started moving money from our joint account into a private one. I made sure to leave enough to avoid suspicion, but kept enough to ensure she wouldn't drain me dry when the time came. Over the next few weeks, I gathered more evidence. I followed Rachel when she claimed to be working late and took photos of her and Derek meeting at a hotel. I recorded conversations and saved messages from her laptop. Each piece of evidence was like a brick in the wall I was building around her. But I wasn't just planning my escape. I was planning her downfall. The first twist came when I discovered that Derek wasn't just her lover. He was also her accomplice in stealing money from her company's accounts. They had been laundering funds, using her position as a cover. My initial goal had been revenge, but now I had something even more powerful, leverage. One evening, as Rachel sat in the living room scrolling through her phone, I asked, "How's Derek?" Her head snapped up, eyes narrowing. "What are you talking about?" I shrugged. "Just wondering how your work thing is going." Her face turned pale, and for the first time in months, she looked genuinely afraid. The night I unleashed my revenge was carefully planned. Rachel had organized another event, this time to announce a major promotion she had secured. Derek was there, of course, lurking in the background like the snake he was. As Rachel stood at the podium, basking in the applause, I stepped forward. "Before we continue," I said, my voice steady, but loud enough to command attention, "I have something to share." Rachel froze, her smile faltering. I pulled out a stack of documents and held them up. "This," I said, "is evidence of my wife's affair and her involvement in embezzlement." Gasps filled the room as I laid everything out, the photos, the emails, the financial records. Derek tried to slip out, but security stopped him. I had already tipped off the authorities, who were waiting outside to escort him away. Rachel's carefully constructed world crumbled in front of everyone. She had tried to impress her friends, her colleagues, even her family, but now they all saw her for what she truly was. As she tried to defend herself, I delivered the final blow. "You called me a loser, Rachel, but the truth is, I was the only one who ever believed in you. And now everyone knows the real you." In the weeks that followed, Rachel's life fell apart. She lost her job, her reputation, and Derek. The company pressed charges, and she faced legal consequences for her actions. I finalized our divorce, walking away with everything I needed to rebuild my life. For the first time in years, I felt free from her manipulation, her lies, and her cruelty. I began focusing on myself, rebuilding my business, reconnecting with friends, and finding joy in the small things. People often ask if I regret what I did. My answer is always the same: no. Rachel thought she could humiliate me, tear me down, and walk away unscathed. But I wasn't the loser she made me out to be. I was the man who stood up, fought back, and won. And that's the real story.